but it was just an interesting thread in the Discord server. And once I saw I had 400 messages, I was like, yeah, this has to be the topic for the week, being that we don't have a
Yeah.
speaker.
I mean, I'm
Interestingly
sure
enough,
Manuel can
at
go
least
on about it.
Which
what'd you say, Zach?
I said Manuel probably, if he's available, I'm sure he could probably.
He's at a
Yes.
jazz festival this week
Rip.
or today, so
Dang.
I don't know.
Oh,
if
so he's out this week. Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, I was hoping we could have the man of the hour, because like at least 100 of those 400 messages was him trolling Oliver, which was fun. I think it was a fun discussion though.
This lines up.
It is interesting to have like a top 1% user of Claude in the group chat.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, and yeah, it's very helpful for me because I have managed to stick to my daily upload schedule for 2 whole days. So now if I do a third day, they will have all been Claude Code related. So the algo will love it. We'll be very excited.
Let's go.
Does anyone have any thoughts on like over engineering versus under engineering? Like, Slono is kind of famous for his prompts that are like very crude, like 6-word prompts that end up, in like a full stack application, versus like, having 60 sub agents that you describe in the form of an organization. Does anyone have any thoughts on like which one's more productive?
I was watching last night a couple of so Anthropic dropped like a bunch of videos yesterday, and there were the one that was like Claude Code best practices kind of sucked, but there's another one called vibe coding in prod that I thought that at least like touches on a couple of the ideas that are like sort of seeming important to me when you're trying to get these things to self-drive. For context, essentially like the startup that I've been, I guess, like primarily attached to lately is a buddy's trying to put together like a terminal agent orchestrator utility, essentially. So I've been like trying to figure out what the best sort of methodology for that is. And like 2 things that from that talk that make a lot of sense to me, and maybe they make sense to other people. One was like embrace the exponential, which I think when you're when you're running these things when you're trying to go hands off intentionally, I feel like there are certain things that work and certain things that don't, depending on how hands-on you are or aren't. And I think one of the things that you can do that is still productive, that is fairly hands-off, is to kind of use the Slono technique of kind of let the model do the driving. Like, rather than you trying to steer it, just kind of watch where it's going and like trim off the really bad stuff, but otherwise just kind of let it rip. And I think the idea there being, if I want deterministic code to come out of something, well, I should probably use a human for that, because otherwise what I'm doing is I'm taking a slot machine and I'm trying to like dial in every little part of it. The point of the slot machine is that it's a slot machine and you can like just keep spinning it with one pull of the lever and hit the jackpot, right? So it sort of defeats the purpose of using the utility, at least for like in terms of like their level of performance right now, to try and get this like very clean, deterministic, well-structured kind of thing. And like you end up having to do basically the same amount of work as you would to get something done with like maybe like cursor tab or like maybe one subagent on the side, because you're gonna need to spend like days dialing in your exact constraints to like get it to go exactly on the road that you want it to go, which to me like isn't productive. Like if you want to do that, then what you should do is just use things like cursor tab, and then maybe like a couple of subagents that are really tightly scoped that are doing like very specific things like continually testing or like, you know, triple checking your CI or something like that. But I think you can get like quality software with like self-evolving constraints, as long as you're kind of giving the thing some amount of rails and otherwise sort of like letting it drive. Like a term that I've used is rather than software engineering, you're software farming. Like you're just sort of like letting it grow, and you're like trimming off the rotten parts, essentially, is what your job is. And then the other thing conceptually that made sense to me from that talk was that LLMs are compilers, except the intermediate representation that they make is effectively universal. So you can take natural language, and then you can make an IR of a DSL, and then you can make another IR of like an actual Figma file of what your UI looks like, and then make another IR of like a spec of the backend of that, or like a spec that describes that UI, and they're all they should all compile to the same thing, but the problem with the universal compiler is that it doesn't have a good like type checker / garbage collector. So if they get out of whack, they'll just still compile anyway, but you'll get the wrong thing. Is kind of those are kind of my primary observations with kind of trying to get these things to self-drive. I'm curious if yeah, I don't know. There's your starting point. There's your prompt.
I think Zach had his hand up and then Vincent, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking like screen share. Like, yikes, do you feel confident you could like speed run some sort of Claude on Claude thing and kind of like have that be the conversation piece? I mean, I have Claude open in a fresh repo, and I could totally just like, you know, AI in action, vibe mob.
Yeah, let me let's see. Let me think of C. So I did, as I mentioned, I did a couple of let's see, where should I do here? I think maybe we should do it like this. I did a couple of presentations recently on I wonder if this is gonna work. Are we Claude coding today? Yes. Okay. Can we see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
So I did a couple of presentations on Claude Code recently, and so I have a repo of like demos of use cases that you could use Claude Code for, and these are these are all generated by Claude Code as well. And so I have, for each one, I have like a human README that's sort of going to describe like what our role is, and then I have the agent README of these are the documents that we're going to give to Claude, kind of thing. So this is what I got lying around. And so, but yeah, Zach, if you have a repo as well that's got a good like kind of exercise to go through. I was
just going to start from a clean slate and just see how speed run we could do together.
Yeah.
Vincent, if you want to jump in there before they get started.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk a little bit about some of the like mindset shift that I've had recently, like just literally just like living inside of Claude Code. I think I did something like 40, 50 million tokens in like a couple of weeks and just burned through so many accounts. Like just the interesting thing for me, and just kind of like just spitball and just kind of like adding on whoever was talking earlier, was very much this concept that letting the machine do its work, I think was very interesting, because for me it was like, even like talking to ChatGPT and stuff recently, I used to like give it examples and stuff, and now more recently I'm like, wait, I'm just going to see what it does first and then correct it. I think kind of goes to the point of like when we over direct these things, like I feel like there's this art that comes out of these things where it just kind of goes somewhere and you're even surprised because of the quality of the stuff that's coming out, that I almost want to see where it takes me first to like kind of help me riff off like where to go next from that. So I have some ideas and suggestions on where I start when I start with Claude Code. And one of the interesting things that I've been doing, and I don't know if other people are doing this, is I still like tools like Lovable from a feel perspective. And what I've been very much doing is starting in something like a reasoning model to create like a really long product requirement. So there's like a lot of what we would call like the initial first start or the zero shot prompt, and then feed that in some like a Lovable hooked up to a super base, but like just build that UI in that zero shot that kind of solves roughly what I'm looking for. And then I'll move into Claude Code and just like hammer out the functionality aspect of it once I've got like a feel for how it works, which is very different to like how I was coding, vibe coding like early on, like 6 months, 8 months ago maybe, where it was very much start from the back end and build a UI that goes on top. It's now almost like start with the end state and then build the functionality into it and then see where the AI adds in all this like fanciness. So I'm happy to demo like some of the stuff that I've built recently, but I also think that we could zero shot this or like start from a use case and just kind of like build it out and see where it goes, because I think these tools are now at like a much better place now.
I will say that in terms of ideas on what to vibe on, like if you guys are open, especially like Zach and Yikes, as you kind of move forward, like I would like to see a demo from Vincent as well if we have time at the end. We're like 15 minutes in now, but like I think using the AI in action bot repo would be really, really interesting just because there are features that we've already been requesting. And so like if we could knock it out with a couple of sub agents, I think that would be cool. Just being honest, like that, you know, in the channel, it does seem to struggle with a thing here or two there. And this is a rare moment where we have David Gutman on, if I'm not mistaken. He mentioned, he talked in the chat earlier. And then the other thing I will say is like, K-Ball, if you, not to put you on the spot, but I feel like you always have nuanced takes about this. And just to round off the conversation about, you know, over-engineering the sub-agent versus, you know, having a million sub-agent files versus like just letting Claude cook, if you had a take on that before they get started. And then Zach and Zach, you can have the floor, but I was just interested in if K-Ball had any like nuanced takes, because he normally has good ones.
I mean, so I think a lot of it is going to depend on what you're trying to do and what you're doing in the code base. So one of the things, you know, I work with Slono now, and so I see the impacts of the work that he does. And when he just lets it rip, there's a lot of cleanup, and he ends up doing that cleanup for our prod stuff. But like, you know, Claude runs to a lot of slop, and it will do a lot of sloppy things if you let it, and if you don't give it guidelines. And so it may function, but not be super maintainable or have lots and lots of additional things. So if you're doing, for rapid prototype, we're in 0 to 1 testing a feature that we want to get in front of users ASAP, and we'll probably throw it away, let it rip, that's great. But I think, and for exploring the edges of these things, it's great. But I think if you're trying to build a maintainable code base, you need structured guidelines, not just in the agent, but also in like in your feedback loop with the agent. And that's actually one of the key pieces, right? Is like, what language are you using? How good are the type checks? Do you have linting? Do you build your own custom linters? Do you build a bunch of other stuff that not as soft guidelines in the agent MDs or in the different files, but as hard guidelines that catches when it goes outside of your code guidelines? Because if you can build that feedback loop and have that happen in loop with the agent so it can go on its own, then you can keep it much more on the rails.
This reminds me of the third thing from the vibe coding and prod talk, which was there are certain places in your code base where you know that you can do the like grown-up version of vibe coding, in that if you know this is a place in the code base where it's hard for you to create tech debt, where you can, like, you know this is probably not going to change, like, as opposed to, if you're sort of thinking about it as like a tree diagram, you probably don't want to just let it rip in the trunk that a lot of things are going to build off of, and it's going to need to change all the time. But like on the far end of a leaf, if you know like that's just going to kind of be what it is for a while, and like it's not like a bunch of things aren't going to depend on it, then it's a great place to just sort of experiment, A, with the workflow, and then B, to sort of like see what you get when you kind of give these sort of vague directives with some sort of amount of structure with the rest of your style guides and stuff.
I have like 6 questions, but I'll do like rapid fire for each person, and you guys can say yay, nay. So we'll start with Vincent, because you were kind of the first person that talked. So you talked about like an approach where you do a PRD situation and reasoning model, you write a big thing, and you pass it off to AI then to execute and go crazy. I'm curious, what how big is the doc? And then do you allow the Claude Code instance to do its thing without you intervening? Or is there an intervention process where you incrementally feed sections of the PRD into the AI to then execute? What does that look like?
Essentially, it was like, I've got an ideal concept in my mind. Here's some visuals of like what others have built design-wise. Here's some notes. Here's whatever, O3, build this into something I could then pass to Lovable that has all my requirements. Lovable 0 shot set. I get rid of all the mock and just kind of looks half decent. Then I move to Claude Code, and then we basically have like 6 sessions in parallel. It's like, hey, you focus on backend. Hey, you write tests. Hey, you do this, and just like farm it out. I had this thing running for like 3 days straight, and the end result is like phenomenal, which I'll show you guys later if we get time.
Okay, so you start with the front end, and then you allow it to build out the functionality in the back end for you.
Essentially,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then another one for K-Ball. So you mentioned the cleanup process where Slono kind of goes off and like poops out a bunch of stuff with Claude Code, and then he has to clean it up later. You mentioned soft and hard guidelines. What does that actually mean, like specifically?
Yeah. So the distinction I was making there in terms of soft and hard is, I think anything that you're telling the LLM as like, this is in my agent MD or my Claude MD or my cursor rules or whatever you're using to guide your prompts, those are all soft. We know these things ignore us. They like are doing things that, mostly maybe capture what we were trying to get to maybe, but then they'll also like, infamous one for Claude or Sonnet 4 is it loves backwards compatibility. You're like, no, rip it out. Do it differently. No, I'm going to wrap it in a wrapper to make sure, like, it's terrible for that. So hard guidelines are things where your code will not commit unless this is there. And you tell the LLM, you're going through to a commit. If it's not passing, you have to fix it until it does it. So this is things like type checks, unit tests, custom linting rules, all these other different things. And in a lot of languages, you can get very advanced with those linting rules, right? You can make them, invalidate a lot of quote unquote valid code that doesn't match what you want in your code base. And those become hard checks because no code gets into your code base unless it's there. And then for your agent, you can tell it you have to check all of these, you have to run a commit, or you have to do, to get it there. And so, pre-commit or left hook or other different things to just be like, this must run before this code is good.
How do you decide on what's hard and what's soft?
If I had an answer to that, I don't know. I think broadly, if it's something where you can say that we never want this style of code in our code base, this is never going to be the right answer, and it's straightforward to build it into a linting rule or something like that, like do it. And I lean towards the more things you can make hard, the better in terms of code quality. So I like LLM generation for strictly typed languages more than I like it for duck type languages and other types of things. I like unit tests. I like, all of these different ways of keeping the thing on the rails. And the distinction between, like, I think the more of those you have, the more you can just kind of let it rip at the prompt level, because it's going to sort of let it figure out what works and what doesn't. But I don't have a golden answer. I just have sort of experimentally where we're getting to.
Cool. Can I do one last question? I feel like I'm taking a lot of time. Cool. So this is for everybody. I'm curious on subagents. So first, how do you decide on which subagent to create per project? Like, does anybody have a process around how you decide what subagents to create? And then once you come up with the idea for the subagent you want to have, what's your process for creating it? And any best practices associated to structuring the subagent description, name, and or correlating prompt to get it to utilize it more effectively or get more out of it. So idea, process, best practices.
I'll just chime in with one best practice for me is what I generally try to do with Claude is give it a set of constraints to work under, and then try to let it work uninterrupted for as long as I can. And then if I see that it has started to go off the rails, what I generally have it do is make a debrief doc that's like, hey, you're done for the day. These are the issues that I noticed with either your most recent commit or the PR. Can you make a doc of the like observations, notes, and any additional constraints or rules that the next incoming agent should have in order to not make this mistake that you made. And then I'll kill the agent, and then I'll look at the rules that it suggested and possibly update either the local Claude MD or or I'll find or the Claude MD in the folder, or like maybe make a command or something, depending on kind of what I'm getting from it. Basically, the idea being, unless something is going wrong, the ideal state for a subagent is to have nothing in its context window and output the perfect tokens every time, right? So what I want to do is minimize the amount of stuff that I have to put in its context window in order to get as close to perfect tokens every time as I can. And based on the papers and such that I've read, LLMs are better at prompting themselves than I am at prompting LLMs. So generally what I'm trying to do. Somebody's echoing me.
Marco, your audio is echoing.
Thank you. Yeah, so generally what I'm trying to do is I want the agents to go for as long as I can let them go, and then when they mess up, I want to kill them. I want to extract any like rules or good things or bad things that they did, save just those, and then try to reset the constraints and fire it up to go as long as it can again, basically, is kind of the iterative process for me.
I think that process could be automated. I might try something for next week and we'll back.
Yeah, it's very automatable. Like you just put in a rule that's like, hey, at the end of your workday, make a debrief doc, include any like Claude.mds or cursor rules that you think should be added, and then you can sort of like review those as they come in, and you what I'd like to do is find and I think this is kind of one of the next things I want to work on, is to find more automated code quality tests that like actually kind of work, because ideally I would like to be able to sort of automatically tell that a Claude has gone off the rails and that it needs to get shut down and take another shot at it without having to use my meet human eyeballs. So that's kind of the missing piece for me.
We're 27 minutes in. If you guys want to demo, unless Dylan, I think did you have any more questions on that end?
No, thank you for allowing me to take 15 minutes of everybody's time.
No, that's good. Those are great questions, and the stuff I'm interested in, especially with regard to the sub agents. So, anyways, if you guys have the demo stuff, or what's the plan? I'll let Zach take over from here because they seem to have some good ideas on like what you guys could vibe on.
What's the AI in action repo thing? The bot?
Gutman has shared it in the Discord server. I can grab it real quick. It is.
The link's in the Zoom.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play around with this for a while, and just still haven't had a chance to do it much yet. But just talking to a model about how it's set up, and then I actually want to like a chatbot that will just tell us about the history of AI in action. Yeah, exactly. Too many vibes, not enough time. But it's like the history, like all of the past sessions that we have recordings for, anyways, and be able to like somehow integrate that with the bot. But I haven't taken the time, so But I haven't really played with Claude Code, if I'm being honest. So seeing you guys play with it is interesting to me. Wait, so Zach, what was the idea? It was to I had to go scroll up and read.
I mean, we're shooting from the hip because this was like an impromptu, like, hey, let's talk about this topic and see what we got. And it sounds like, yeah. I already see Yikes is chewing on something, so I don't know if maybe we go with that or what. And it sounds like, Vincent, if you don't have time today, you might be interested in showing some stuff next time or soon.
Yeah, I'd like to go into more the sub-agent, or I do stuff around like agent optimizing other agents kind of use cases, which are kind of a bit meta and cool, which I could apply to some of this Claude Code stuff. But I'm also keen to just demo some of the stuff I've built recently as well, just to show people like what's possible. It sucks because like the logs aren't retained, which is something else I've also been working on.
I've been wondering about that
At least
myself.
with Claude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To reprompt, David Gutman said the AI in action bot could use some features if you want to live vibe. Dylan was asking, can you show how you're creating sub-agents? Maybe we can like combine those two. Yeah, Dav said, can you start a fresh repo and start from there? Just some of the stuff we talked about earlier. And if not, if we do, or we could get a vibe started here and like let Yikes take off, and then maybe let Vincent come in and demo some stuff while he's like letting the Claude rip in the background. But I'm interested in seeing how you guys get it to the point where you let Claude rip, you know what I mean? Is that Yikes, if you could like talk through what you're setting up
sure.
here.
So I've been doing a lot of.
You're muted if you didn't know.
I did not. Thank you. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of experimenting with like supplementary utilities. You might have seen it if you were watching my screen at all. There's a since we're kind of on the topic of also Adam. Yeah, I think it was you that I saw the piping Claude into Datadog. I think is really is a super dope technique that I want to explore more. I'm trying to think of, oh yeah, this is what it is. Give me, I think what I want is, I'm going to need a new terminal real quick. So I'm going to need to control D this, I think. Oh wait, no, escape, no, yes. Oh, gotta go in there. And then, if I want to go, my thing is I don't know how to, okay. I'm gonna go here, give me a term, and then give me another term. And then we're gonna go here, we're gonna go with that. I have to, my setup is super weird. We're gonna go sniff, there we go. Okay, so I don't have Datadog, but I do have this, which is a sort of just like reads the logs and such, and I can like export it out. This isn't like a core part of my workflow right now, but I know I'm gonna need it essentially. If my goal is to let Claude rock like hands off as much as I can, then what I'm gonna need is to keep really good track of where it's been going and what qualities its outputs have been having so far. Yes, Sniffly's great, which is currently what I'm using. It's at, there's a link there, sniffly.dev. There are other utilities for this. This is just like the prettiest one that I found. And so generally when I'm running Claude code of any kind, I want to run Sniffly, so that's why I was doing that. And then we're going to Claude here. I also have, I've been experimenting with, you can find it on GitHub if you search for Super Claude Framework. It's sort of one of those prepackaged, like, here's a bunch of commands and some prompts that this is like the magic best way to make your thing into a crazy swarm machine or whatever, which I don't necessarily put a ton of stock into these, but I do like to experiment with them to see if there's any like useful stuff to extract from. And so one of the things that's nice is it comes with a bunch of default commands. So I think, and I haven't really played with a lot of these, so I think what I want to do is maybe do an index command here, or maybe an analyze. Yeah, so I think, so one of the things that I keep hearing with Claude, or like from all the Claude talks, is spend some time like the first thing that you should do in a new code base with Claude is just kind of explore it for a while, and like get Claude to like search through it and kind of like map it out essentially. And then I think I should probably also grab repo prompt here, and then get a new workspace going. I also have not really put this through the paces, but let's do. Let me see if I can figure this out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in while you're moving stuff around. So you mentioned you said in different talks that you've watched, they said to map out the code base with Claude prior to getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you mean by map it out?
I mean, pretend Claude is a junior developer that is one of those guys that lives in the terminal and like only uses Vim and like greps around all the time and like has memorized every bash command or whatever. And you and that junior are gonna like get familiar with this code base. So if you're not familiar, unless you already have like a very solid picture of like how this code base actually works, what talks to what kind of abstractions there are, etc., then like you can just ask like, hey, what are the key abstractions in this code base? And Claude will start grepping around and looking to see what its estimation of that is. Then you can kind of, basically it's you and Claude getting on the same page of like, okay, here's where we're at and here's where we need to go, kind of thing. So that is general. So like, and then even if I do have that, sometimes I will ask those kinds of questions to Claude just to kind of be able to estimate like what directions it might start hallucinating in, or like, you know, if there is like a particularly like poorly named method that like keeps coming up in the code base all the time, like, oh, okay, so like when he's grepping for this, he's gonna like hit like 3 of this like things that are different things that are like named very similarly, so he's probably gonna trip up there, kind of thing, basically.
So the benefit here is more for the person and not the AI to understand more about the code base through Claude, instead of doing like a slash in it and letting Claude try to assume everything itself.
I would say it's probably both, and like, well, yeah. So the very first thing is slash init to kind of see what you get with Claude. It's for the person to get familiar with the code base, and for the person to get familiar with Claude's understanding and weird tendencies in this particular code base, because he has different quirks depending on how every different code base is structured, right?
Cool. Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So, okay. Yeah. So I think what I'm going to. Oh yeah, I wanted to get repo prompt up and running. Oh yeah, it was over here, so I need to open this. And yeah, I think using multiple LLMs is very underrated. Like Zen MCP is good. I have the repo prompt MCP, so that also has its it has a thing where you can call different models. Occasionally, I have some secret Vim tech for this too, which is going to be, I think it's this straight up Control A. Is it? It's been a while. Is it Control Q? Yeah, it's this. So I have like this is my like TDD loop kind of thing that I can use some of those commands to. It's Code Companion, I think. Yeah, secret Vim tech. Actually, I want to dig a little bit more into what kind of NeoVim plugins there are for Claude Code and see if because there are definitely like some useful like normal AI ones too.
So you can like
so
spin your own as well. Sorry, go.
I was just saying, like, we got the code up, and like maybe we can make a feature, just a simple like demo of how this flow could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me. I'm in the other screen real quick, and then yeah, let's just see if we can let them cook here.
I do have a question, and maybe David could answer this one. Like, what model is being used right now for the bot? Is it just like 4.0, GPT 4.0?
Yeah, so it has Open Router in there, and you would probably just have to look into the code to see what it's using. I'm gonna guess it's 4.0 mini, just something that's inexpensive.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not a free model. Like you're footing the bill for the AI in action bot right now. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I missed rent last month because it was so bankrupting. yeah. I don't think it registers how much it's using at the moment.
Yeah, I was only asking because like it seems like if you say schedule to it, like via context, it would pick up and understand. But like you have to explicitly say view schedule and things like that. So that was one of the first questions I was going to ask once I got the code base up. Was just like what model's being used and how can we make it like more flexible or more.
Yeah, I don't
It's 4.0
actually.
mini, by the way.
It's what?
It's 4.0 mini. I just checked.
4.0 mini, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's actually the model's fault. I mean, I think the thing to remember about this is we vibe coded it in an hour on one of these things, and then I haven't really had time to touch it again. We've added, one of the features was done by Devin. That's the one that lets you go check previous talks and things like that. And I think we just have some other tiny ones. I think it's mainly just nobody's really paid attention or did very much to it to optimize it.
I'm surprised that that it actually works considering there's no TypeScript. I find it very difficult to use Claude or really any code gen agent without like strong typing in a lot of tests. But I'm a very like constraint oriented kind of code generator.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really thought that TypeScript was gonna help, and when I tried to use it, which could definitely be a skill issue or whatever, it just wound up taking so much time trying to fix all the different type errors and everything that I just moved away from it and went more YOLO. But that was much earlier in Cursor's lifetime and not with Claude.
Yeah, that's changed a lot now. Like you'll notice if you went straight to Claude Code with something fresh, you'll face that issue less so.
It's
David,
funny how much I was just going to say, it's funny how much baggage I have from using these tools for
Same.
so long that I've developed these superstitions that have persisted and no longer apply.
Yeah. I almost didn't want to touch Claude Code, and then I was like, oh my god, I want to do it. And I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. Same thing. But yeah, I feel you.
Like I have a, I'll dig it up, but like really early in Cursor, I had it build like an archery scoring app where I pretended like I didn't know how to code. I just pretended to be a product manager style. And then I figured out how to export the chat, and it's just like a different universe. And that wasn't too long ago in all of this. It's just everything moves so fast.
Oh, David, what's your native programming language if not TypeScript?
It is JavaScript. Yeah, it's JavaScript.
How is it getting this out? Oh yeah, it's for Cursor. Okay. Okay, let's see. We have.
Oh, and yikes! Real quick, I do have like a token and stuff set up for you if, for whatever reason, you want to do this hitting a Discord server. But let me know.
Okay, got it. All right. Let's just YOLO accept this because that sounds fun. I gotta check and make sure I'm in model. Well, he'll figure that out after it's done. While he's cerebrating, we can take a look at API.md probably. There we go. Okay. What's this docs? So do we have? Is this kind of like your prompt journey here with?
Yeah. So that was all. I think you probably missed the one where we vibe coded this. I was trying to use a combination of the Slono and Harper method, and so that's what all of those are going to be. It's like write a detailed tutorial that XYZ, and then go execute whatever the markdown is.
Oh, I need to make sure I need to make sure my GitButler is up, actually.
I find that like less so effective, at least in my case, that Claude tends to have like this running sort of like context window of like memory where it kind of formulates an idea of what it should be working on. And it has like almost like a scratchpad that it works through. The issue is it's all well and good until that thing crashes. And then you've lost all the like this rich context of what it's working on. So what I found is like less so about writing tutorials, but actually more getting it to write what it's working on as it's working on it. So that if you ever did have to come back and like refresh Claude Code for whatever reason, because you've just been running this thing for like 3 days straight, it remembers of these like key bits of information on what it needed to be working on. I think somewhere, I don't know if it was this group or another one somewhere, a few people have used like MCP tools where it would like write stuff to like a to-do list somewhere to keep track of stuff, so it's not within the CLI, but it's more like stateful somewhere else.
Yeah, it does have its own to-do list, and I don't know if it's a Super Claude thing or if it's does it normally, but there's a JSON, I think, in your home.claude folder that's like to-dos.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, I think so.
Damn. I'm learning today.
Yeah, I put a link or a reference. So in mine, it came out to till/.claude/projects, and then there's like a naming convention, and then there's a bunch of JSONL for each project.
Damn. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Sweet.
I don't know how that works with agents, like sub-agents, if
Yeah,
they
when I reload the terminal, it doesn't seem to retain that to-do list though. It's lost it. It's like starts fresh. So it's there, but it doesn't do anything with it.
You could try maybe, I don't know how it works with its internal, I know it has an internal to-dos tool.
Yeah.
Mostly, actually, primarily because, let me see if I can get the right thing.
There's a session ID.
I think it's this, it'll be that. No, I don't care.
Creates a session ID. That's what this says. You can restore back to a session. All right, learning something new.
That, and then, where's my Sniffly? It's in probably this, I think. The reason that I know that is because of Sniffly, I think, because that tells me, where did I put it? I don't know. Maybe it's in Dia. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Is because we have let's see, tool is it tool results? Not sure. Anyway, there's a one of the tools that it has, if you're like looking in its JSONLs, is like update to-dos. It does use a tool call for that. Is the thing. Okay. So we have API structure and README. Okay, and we do have tests. Nice. How have you looked at the tests much? Do they track? Like, are they real tests?
It has been a while, but I think I was trying to do TDD when we were doing this.
Yeah, that's mostly what I was wondering, is if the TDD's working. Well, let's ask Claude. Let's see if Claude will figure it out. Do I need to go here? Do I need to go there? Okay. If I may. Oh, do I need to lock it maybe? Yeah, there we go. I used to have an auto lock for Zelich that I really need to try and get working again. You review the, actually, can I slash this? Yeah. Let me see if this
as a bit of background banter, we're closing in on like 10 minutes left on this one. I was also going to say that I don't quite follow what you guys are saying about the JSONL files. Is this related to the Claude-R that Scott Werner put in the chat? Like I'm missing out. Just to make
Yeah,
it
so
clear.
what happens is like as you start working on stuff, it has its own like scratchpad where it creates like a to-do list in its own memory, which is why I was saying one of the methodologies someone was talking about earlier, where you create all these like in-depth tutorials of what to work on, I find semi-irrelevant because like that's just a point in time, whereas Claude Code has a good point in time reference that it kind of creates itself, but it loses that state is what I remembered, but everyone else is correcting me saying actually no, every time you run Claude Code, it writes that to a JSONL file somewhere in your user directory, and then those are like session IDs, and you can like restore that as a session and come back to it and like continue on from that state essentially.
Nice.
I just saw it. If you do we know about the double escape trick where you can clear the last turn? I just saw that now when you do the double escape, it forks you. It says that you can it gives you a new session to play with. I just saw that like a second ago when I tried to do it. When I double escaped off the initial init. I'll let him finish trying to run his tests.
Are you meant to be showing? Because I'm not seeing that. Oh no, you are. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm not showing
Oh,
yet.
good.
I'm gonna let him see if he can do. I'm gonna see what he says about test coverage first, and then after he finishes that, then I'll double escape him and see if I can clear that out. Because only I need to know that. Claude doesn't need to know that anyways, which is fine.
And then I seen Adam say in the chat, a command for Claude.json, and I'm assuming like using that, or that's the file that you can use to restart a session. Is that what Adam's saying there in the chat?
It's its own internal memory that's used for its like to-do or Kanban or whatever you want to call it. I never knew it was exposed. Essentially, it's there. It's recorded.
Yeah, I think the .claude.json. I think that's the settings file. I think there's also a .claude directory in your home folder. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that's right. And that would have the sessions.
Okay, so maybe we'll get a test report. I forget what model I'm on right now. I usually prefer to use Sonnet, and I'm trying to transition away from Claude Code and over into things like Open Code and Crush, and then only bring in Sonnet with Opus when I need the big guns, essentially. Because I really don't like Sonnet's tendency to run around doing random shit. Okay, so it looks like he thinks your tests are good. Integration is, so we have some poor coverage, we have some bot logic that are not tests, and we have a test report MD. Okay, cool. Let's see, he wants to add tests, mock some open router API calls, and improve the auth middleware, sure. So we're gonna, let me show the double escape thing. This will fork the conversation,
okay,
is what
that's
it
cool.
says. Yeah, so I can jump to a previous message and it'll fork from there, is what it says. Which is really, really nice, actually. I've wanted that feature for a while.
Similar to like cursor when you like go back a few questions when it gets stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everyone's
Wait, can you?
Everyone's not in there. It's like, oh yeah.
So you got to this by pushing exit twice?
Escape twice, yeah.
Bam.
Okay.
That's fire. I didn't know that.
The other thing I want to check, or like point out, I guess, that I find very useful, if I can get it to show up here, where the frick is it? The way that I do Git is I don't let Claude touch Git. The way that I do Git is I have Git. I have the Mac window manager that I don't really like, and it's not cooperating right now. It was over there the whole time, derp. I have Claude-Codebooks configured to fire before and after every write file tool call, I believe it is. And then I use this utility, which is called GitButler, which is kind of like a GUI for Git with some other like bells and whistles, but kind of as you can see, there's like a couple of branches here. These are like virtual branches, and I can just drop these file changes into a particular lane. So it's sort of and I'm thinking about I may not need it because I'm using these virtual branches, but I was thinking about using a merge queue on my own repos if I'm going to have agents working in them. Because like like for large open source projects with a bunch of random ass PRs coming in all the time, it's way more sane if you can keep a merge queue like set up so like things are sort of going in the right order. And effectively, that's sort of what you're doing if you're going to sick like 10 Claude codes on your repo and cross your fingers. But I may not need it just because like I'm currently dragging manually all the stuff into that. So that's kind of up in the air, but I was thinking about that the other night. But yeah, I'm a huge GitButler fan, but one of the reasons I don't like Sonnet is it likes to try to call Git anyway. I think I actually just disallowed the tools. But I use the Claude-Codebooks thing to have this happen, basically.
I saw, just as another quick comment, I saw I think it was the latest indie dev Dan video where he made a hook to make a sound. I think Windsurf already has this. I don't know if Cursor has it, but you kind of like set the chat off to do something and then go in the background, get food, work on the next project. And he set a hook to have Claude Code say out loud, "I'm done with your code," or something like that. So now you know to return to the window, or it makes like a chime or whatever. So I think you can build that into hooks as well. I know you just mentioned hooks, but just wanted to say for notification purposes, you can have Claude notify you when it's done.
Yeah, hooks are pretty lit.
Oh, that's fire! Yeah, having it set up to like go to your phone and you like leave the room. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. I want to play around with more mobile utilities too. Fun, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna end up using it just yet. And I wish I could just do it in NeoVim, which maybe I'll write a plugin for it or something. In my opinion, Claude Code should have LSP feedback. I think it's kind of silly that he's running around the code base without like a linter and a formatter and a like LSP output telling him like whether or not he's writing like random irrelevant stuff for no reason. So even if I'm not actually using Cursor, it can. I haven't really thoroughly tested this, but my guess would be that the LSP stuff is still going to fire in Cursor, so it'll get injected into his open code. Yeah, I definitely, that's one of the reasons why I kind of want to transition over to something like Open Code or Crush, is because I need more hackability. Like I appreciate, I think a lot of the ideas and stuff that they're doing in here is good, but yeah, I don't. It's annoying to need a feature and not be able to build it. Let's see. Do we have like a TDD kind of workflow here? Improve, implement, estimate, spawn.
I was just going to say on the mobile commentary, similar to your setup that you've got there. I started on this a few days ago. I had it on my mind is to basically set up like a VM with like tmux that I can just shell into that runs like multiple like Claude sessions, and I could get into it from my iPad. I don't even need to bring like my laptop anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I was actually thinking about signing up to do a one of these talks showing that's what I have now, like just on my iPhone. So most everything I do from my phone, and one of the crazy things is from the phone, the default like Siri dictation transcription doesn't work, but WhisperSync does. It gives you a custom keyboard, and that has been huge for doing this Claude stuff from your phone.
Yeah, we got to call time because we're like within a couple minutes of the hour. But like K-Ball said, K-Ball, if you want to close us out, that's cool. This has been very informative though, and I actually I don't know if you're like streaming later or what, but I would like to see whatever is like the end result, whatever. Sure, I don't know if you had a feature in mind or Zach had a feature in mind, but to see the end of this would be really cool.
Yeah, real quick, if anybody has is there like a feature suggestion that we kind of want to see in the AI in action bot, and I will just.
I mean, a real easy one is, hey bot, what's your repo? Because that just happened.
Got it. Let's add plan to add a feature to be able to ask the bot what its GitHub repo link is. Just plan, don't code yet. We'll take a TDD-based approach to implement the feature. So start with red tests, write then write code to flip green, but don't do that yet. Just to-dos.
All right. Yikes, while you do that, we're going to just wrap real quick because we got to wrap up. So this conversation started in the Discord. So if you're not already in the Discord, hop over there. There was a long thread, for those who missed it, of people just jamming on this. And Flo had the great idea that, hey, let's bring that into the live conversation. Next week, we do have a presenter. I think Scott is going to present, which is exciting. And then actually, I think I've got Oliver, who kicked off that initial conversation, going to come and present on his Claude Code subagent setup in 2 weeks. But if you want to give a talk, if there's a topic you want to talk about, just jump into the Discord. You can sign up directly talking to this bot that Yikes is hacking on. You can just start a conversation there, and maybe it'll turn into a conversation here, however you go. But thanks, y'all. Happy Friday, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
GG.
Later, all.